This week on the SEO Weekly, in a battle between robots and human content, who would win? Reboot Online and all of our Sissons will let us know. And quality rater guidelines. What's the job? What are the insights? Cyrus Shepard does it. Dr. Marie Haynes does it. They give us insights. They let us go deep. And JavaScript SEO, how do you diagnose those issues? Tori Gray's got us covered. That and so much more this week on the SEO Weekly. Welcome back to SEO Weekly, where queries are weird, advice is controversial, and everything depends. I'm your host, Garrett Sussman of iPullRank, and every week I cover everything going on in the world of SEO. We're talking Google updates, blog posts, webinars, podcasts, big events, tools, features, communities, Twitter SEO, LinkedIn, you name it, I'm on it. If you're into this stuff, please subscribe to the channel, give us a like, leave us a comment. I genuinely appreciate it. There's so many interesting things going on. So you know what? Let's dive in. So in the world of Google, not too much major stuff to announce, but it is worth pointing out that in late June, there was a Google News issue with indexing. Some publishers were seeing their visibility tank, while others were jumping up. Wall Street Journal pointed out that Yahoo had replaced a lot of results, which was very interesting. Barry Schwartz reported on this, and basically, as of a few days ago, John Mueller did acknowledge that there was a bug. There was an issue that has since been resolved, but obviously for over the course of a few weeks, this is a very big deal and can significantly impact the revenue of publishers. Scary stuff that's outside of their control, but it happens. And then on the other side, apparently over the weekend, there was a major volatility change from all the different tools they showed, spikes in volatility. One thing to call out, a lot of SEOs were saying, okay, who cares about volatility? It's just something SEO influencers pay attention to kind of stir up drama. I think there's truth to that. However, when you look at volatility, which means how much the rankings are fluctuating in aggregate, it doesn't mean as much. When you start to look at it by industry, you're starting to just get a sense of, you're not crazy of that things are fluctuating a lot, that it's more the algorithm than just something you did on your website. When you start to look into volatility of topic clusters or even specific keywords, then you can start to get a sense of, do you have an opportunity to jump into a keyword? So if you see a keyword, fluctuating a lot, you as a publisher might have an opportunity to jump in. Whereas if it's the same 10 blue links that have always been there, it's going to be a lot harder for you to make moves and jump into the top 10. That is a strategy concept in terms of how you can decide to prioritize where you want to, invest in content creation, link building, that sort of thing. Ultimately, my point is volatility may be a superficial stat to pay attention to, but it does give you insight in terms of what might be changing and impacting your rankings that's outside of your control. There was another great episode of Google Search Office Hours in English, this time with John Mueller, Martin Splitt, Gary Ilias. They answered a bunch of questions, and it's always great to watch because they are as transparent and honest as they can be. They basically speak their truths. They're not trying to be misleading, but there's always insights that you can take in terms of your SEO. So a couple of things that were covered that were really interesting. They talk about Google quality raters, specifically how they interact with websites, which if you watch later in this episode, there's a lot more information about how that works. They talk about, discover content, how you can get traffic back. And a lot of it is you really can. It depends. They talk about currency, like if you have different currencies showing up depending on the user, how can you get that to show up in search results, which is a little bit of a complicated situation. And if you have 1,000,000 404s and you have 1,000,000 301s, what is less harmful to your website? And obviously it depends. I think with the office hours, there's a lot of it depends, but they tried their best to be as helpful as possible. Check out that episode. Definitely useful. You gotta respect a well-designed experiment. So Oliver Sisson and his team at Reboot Online put together an experiment all around AI content versus human content. The methodology was so well thought out, and obviously none of these are perfect, but they actually took a real statistical approach to it, created 5 unique domains for AI content, 5 unique domains for human content, picked a search term keyword that had 0 results, completely made up word, Flemmeroonie, which actually was recommended by ChatGPT, had content produced by the AI and then by people on the team, tried to take into consideration all different factors that could influence it, and ultimately found that human content beat AI for SEO. Now, obviously, it's really complex, and over time, things may change. And once you start adding in all the other different factors, maybe people would definitely win, or maybe it would be a little more murky. But nonetheless, this is as good a study for SEO for AI content that we've seen thus far, and basically indicates that you should always have some authentic humans working on your content if you want to win. What do you think? Check out the study. Let me know if you are all about those results, or if you still have questions, or if you're still skeptical. I want to hear it. Every now and then we do continue to touch on Bard because people are using Bard for SEO. It's an LLM, so naturally you want to show up in something like Bard, although it is not the most easy or obvious way to do that at this point, considering it's already been trained. But we do cover updates to Bard. So Jack Krawczyk, who is the product lead for Bard, announced a couple of really interesting updates. One being that Bard now allows you to upload images as part of your prompt, which is really cool. Just now, instead of just having to depend on text, you can actually include a visual, and we know that Bard also outputs visuals. So we're really getting multimodal. The other thing is they've introduce ways to get different types of responses. So you can now specify asking for simple, long, short, professional, or even casual responses from Bard. So it's becoming that much more useful in output for generative AI content creation. I mean, I know a lot of people are using it similar to ChatGPT to just as a search engine, which is risky and not its use case. But for generative AI, there are a lot of use cases, implementations there. So do you use Bard? Do you use Claude, which just became available as well? Do you prefer ChatGPT? What is your LLM, your large language model generative AI tool of choice? Do you use AIPRM on top of ChatGPT? Speaking of ChatGPT, so a couple of weeks ago, ChatGPT, OpenAI actually released their super incredibly powerful plugin called Code Interpreter. This is native to ChatGPT. You do have to turn it on, and it's part of ChatGPT Plus. But the idea is you can now upload Excel sheets, CSV sheets, data, and use Python code, for instance, through your prompts to generate charts and really interesting, all sorts of use cases using data and code. Now, Chris Long of Go Fish Digital did a really great Twitter thread about how he pulled data from Google Search Console and PPC ads to blend them together to identify revenue opportunities for keywords. Really cool how he breaks down how you can do that, and how Code Interpreter basically can do that using a lot of plain English prompting, and you don't necessarily need to know Python to see those graphs. He did it as a scatter plot. One big caveat, though, and this is a reminder, and you don't want yourself to get caught in this situation, is that any data that you are putting into ChatGPT is accessible by OpenAI. So you really need to consider what you're doing so you don't get in trouble with your company if you're breaking any policies. Happened to Samsung employees not too long ago, and they got in deep doo-doo. You need to remove any sort of personal identifier information and be very cautious about uploading data. And it's frustrating because it's so tempting, because it can do so many really cool things. I have 50 million ideas of uploading data and having to do interesting data analysis. And now I realize there are some math issues. They're still prone to hallucinations, but the potential of Code Interpreter is mind-blowing. I mean, just someone took a screenshot alone of the Apple timer the other day and had it recreated with Code Interpreter just from an image, in 4 minutes. That's ridiculous. So the power is there. Just be very mindful about what you're putting into ChatGPT, regardless of the use case. Got it? Okay. So last week, Barry Pollard of web.dev, who works on the interaction index pane, kind of did a really great Twitter thread because a ton of SEOs were getting Google Search Console notices being like, your IMP, this new metric that's been rolled out for Core Web Vitals, ain't so great. Here's what you got to do about it. So Barry breaks down kind of what you need to consider, kind of how it works and how you should optimize. In essence, long story short, interaction next pane is anytime you do anything, you click on a website, how long before you get any sort of indication that anything's happening outside of just like waiting and thinking your site's broken. And it takes into consideration like the slowest websites, the slowest phones. So if you have a lot of JavaScript or you're using a lot of tag manager or ads or anything like that, that could really slow down your IMP. If you want to improve it, in his Twitter thread, he has a link to some optimization options to give to your devs and to your tech team to ultimately make it better. But it can get a little messy and it'll make the web a better place. You know, remember, it's just a tiebreaker metric from actual SEO rankings. It's not going to be make or break, but it is something that Google is definitely taking into consideration going forward. This week, there were two fascinating posts that focused on a really interesting topic that's vague and controversial in the world of SEO. It's the Google Quality Rater Guidelines. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar, that's this massive document that's actually used by Google to have over 16,000 people who are contractors paid by Google. They don't work for Google, they're contractors to look at websites based on Google's Quality Rater Guidelines, a 70-page document that explains what qualifies as a good website. And basically the goal of this is it directly does not impact rankings, but it shows whether or not Google's algorithms are doing their job. Remember, every time we have a core update, Google is changing the weights of different factors to ultimately make sure that the right pages are surfaced for your queries and that they address search intent, that they make sure that they're a good quality user experience, that they have helpful content. So first off, Cyrus Shepard did a deep dive. He actually signed up to be a Google Quality Rater, and he shared some of his insights without breaking the NDA that he signed to work. And what he found that was really interesting is that not just anybody can be a quality rater. You actually need to go through this intensive process to pass their test. Yes, you need to speak English, you need to have a computer, you need to be able to answer these questions. And he said he failed the first time. It took a couple of weeks of studying the materials to be able to pass this test and then go into the details of actually being a quality rater. He went through some insights in terms of what qualifies as a good website and what's not, what meets intent and what doesn't. And then a perfectly complimentary article is written by Dr. Marie Haynes, where she goes deep dive into some of the specific examples of the quality rater guidelines and how quality raters use these. So the difference between a quality website versus something that actually meets the user needs. So Cyrus definitely recommends as an SEO that he learned so much in terms of the way that Google thinks about websites and ratings and quality by going through this experience. Dr. Marie Haynes ties this back to how important EEAT is: experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness is when it comes to Google's Quality Rater Guidelines, and also in the context of what's helpful, the helpful content update that she wrote about last week. Highly recommend you read these. Super important. Big takeaways and why it's important. These impact the rankings, but not directly, not in the way that you think. They impact the algorithms to make sure that they're delivering high quality content. And so they do work as kind of clues and hints as to what Google is looking for and how to satisfy your normal, everyday user search intent. So Erica Veraguli of SEMrush put together a really great basic article about semantic keywords, like what are they and how to find them. We've talked about that a lot in the past regarding entity SEO and the idea that Google understands language more effectively. So you don't want to focus on lexical, just specific keywords, but the relationship, the semantics between relationships. So mother and father, or in Erica's example, Italy and pizza dough. How you want to then create content for all of these relevant words so you can become, or terms, so you can become an authority, a topical authority, and kind of show up for the related search terms. She gives a bunch of tools that you can use to identify these semantic words. Obviously, SEMrush has a bunch of really good ones, just actually going into Google search and looking at like related, or people also ask, or even using Google Ads Keyword Planner. So a lot of great tools there, but it's really important as an SEO to think about your keyword and your SEO strategy semantically, the relationship between words, understanding the way your customers talk about your different subject matters and how they're all related, as opposed to just specific target keywords. It doesn't work like that anymore. So we've talked about JavaScript SEO a ton in the past as well. And there's a great article on Search Engine Land by Tori Gray all about diagnosing common JavaScript SEO issues. So basically, Tori goes through, the tools to diagnose it, but also things about crawling issues, indexing issues, rendering issues. So, if if Googlebot can't actually find specific content on your website, like metadata or internal links, then that's really going to influence your ability to be crawled, your ability to be indexed, your rankings, all that jazz, and how that's really problematic for your SEO and organic traffic. Great article. Check it out. She's got a whole list of different potential issues that you need to pay attention to. So when you're diagnosing your own SEO problems, to fix them. Tori, awesome work. So a lot of times when it comes to the stories that I cover on the SEO Weekly, a lot of it has to do with tactics and different strategies, but it's not often, or it's not frequent, that we talk about SEO in the context of the greater marketing, kind of the market and marketing perspective. Well, Sarah Taher had a really great article on Search Engine Land talking all about how your actual market type shapes your marketing SEO success. She breaks it down into 4 specific types: perfect competition, monopolistic competition, oligopoly, and monopoly. Basically, depending on how much competition there is, like for a perfect competition, if there's a lot of competitors and a lot of buyers and it's easy to enter the market, versus something like a monopoly where there's just one player, Google, how that actually changes your SEO strategy. So whether you're focusing primarily on branding as your differentiator, or by educating your customers with awareness and middle of the funnel content, is a great way to get them, but also worth it in terms of the way the market is set up. She breaks it down further, like whether you focus on localization or other different priorities. Really great article. Good for you to assess, take a self-assessment, look at your market, and let that inform your SEO strategy, because the same SEO strategies don't work for every business. Industries, markets, they're all different. And for some folks, SEO shouldn't be a priority. Maybe you're focusing on social or advertising or whatever. Obviously, holistically works. But anyway, read Sarah's article. Super interesting, super effective. So really cool article on the Wix blog by Manik Bond talking all about SEO automation, specifically for small businesses, like how you can save time and money. And he breaks down specific use cases on how you can really automate and make that process as effective and streamlined using some really cool tools as possible. So he breaks it down into like keyword research and clustering, SEO prioritization, topic generation and content briefs, site auditing and issues tracking, and content optimization and updates. For things like the ideation and content creation, like AIPRM on top of ChatGPT is a great solution. For like tracking site issues, Content King is fantastic, and Wix has a bunch of tools as well. But obviously you have to find what works for you, and work that into your workflow to make everything that much smoother. Check out the article, some really cool ideas from Manik. I really appreciate the way he breaks it down and kind of shows you how you can go about doing it. And in the world of SEO tools, Screaming Frog got everyone freaking hyped yesterday morning. So they released a new version of the spider crawler, basically, with new features around 3D visualizations, an updated design, unified configurations, visual custom extraction. But what everyone is really freaking out over segments, the ability to run crawls based on segments of your website, which is huge. It really allows you to isolate based on specific sections. Game changer across the board. SEOs are like, this is what I've been waiting for. This is so important. This is so well executed. So big shout out to the Screaming Frog team. You know, it's funny, whenever I run Rankable and I ask for rapid fire rankings and I'm like, what are your top 3 tools? I'd swear like 9 out of 10 SEOs actually say Screaming Frog is one of their top 3 tools. So fantastic work. Check it out if you haven't used it before. If you're an SEO, you need to know how to use this tool, Screaming Frog. That's it. Another episode of the SEO Weekly in the books. You notice we did take a week off from Rankable, but don't worry. Don't worry. Tomorrow we've got a brand new episode coming your way, and I'm super excited about it. I took the time to interview none other than Lyndon Nelson Allen. And if you don't know him on Twitter, he is Darth Nelson, Darth NA, Darth Nah, whatever you want to see. He's the dude with the Lord Vader helmet who's always dropping insane knowledge about SEO. It's just like encyclopedia of thoughts and rants and everything. Anyway, we got deep. We went all over the place, and it's a fantastic interview. Outside of that, thank you as always for watching. My name is Garrett Sussman of iPullRank. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe to our channel, give us a like, leave us a comment, share on the socials. Love to continue to get that up and to the right. Otherwise, I guess I will catch you next week. Peace out.